It started on a rainy Tuesday morning. The cafeteria buzzed with voices, trays clattered, and the smell of reheated spaghetti filled the air. The school wasn't special, just another public middle school on the outskirts of Los Angeles. But to 12-year-old Liam, it was a place full of hope and also quiet dread. He never knew which of the two would win each day. Liam stood in the lunch line holding a tray that had only a plastic spoon and an empty slot for the main meal. Behind him, a few kids whispered. Some chuckled. He heard them, but tried not to show. He reached the cashier, a tired woman with half glasses who had already seen too much sadness for one day. She looked down at her screen, then at Liam's tray, and finally at Liam's face. "Liam," she said gently, "you don't have lunch credit today?" He nodded, not surprised. "Can I just take a fruit or something?" he asked. "I'm sorry, honey," she replied. "School rules. No credit, no food." He smiled politely, turned around, and walked back to the lunchroom table. He sat across from his best friend, Josh, who had a full tray of meatballs, garlic bread, and chocolate milk. "Again?" Josh asked. Liam nodded. "Mom's still trying to fix the payments. She said she called the school yesterday." Josh broke his breadstick in half and handed it over. "Take it." "I'm okay," Liam said, but his stomach growled. Josh pushed it into his hand anyway. Across the lunchroom, a woman stood quietly, watching. She was dressed in a janitor's uniform, her hands red from scrubbing, her back sore from bending, all morning. Her name was Maria. She was Liam's mother. She had seen the whole thing. Liam being denied food again. She'd begged the school office the day before. She'd asked for just one more week. They told her it was policy. Nothing they could do. Maria turned back and continued mopping the far hallway. She couldn't cry again. She'd already done that last night when Liam had gone to bed. She'd opened the fridge and stared at the almost empty shelves. She had $3 to her name and 4 days left until payday. But life was about to change in a way she never expected. Later that evening, after Liam had finished his homework, Maria checked her phone. She had one unread message. It was from her friend Claudia, who worked as a temporary assistant at a film studio downtown. The message said, "Need an extra pair of hands tomorrow. Big charity event. Someone canceled. You in?" Maria didn't know what the event was. She didn't care. It paid $50 and included lunch. She said yes. The next day, Maria woke up before sunrise. She wrapped 2 pieces of toast in foil for Liam and gave him a tight hug before leaving. She caught the early bus and headed into the city. Meanwhile, at the school, Liam sat quietly through math, then science, then history. When the bell rang for lunch, he didn't bother going to the cafeteria. Instead, he stayed in the library, pretending to read. Back in the city, Maria arrived at the film studio and was given a plain black apron. She was told to help with setup, placing chairs, adjusting tablecloths, and folding napkins for some celebrity luncheon hosted by the studio's biggest investor. "Don't talk to anyone unless they talk to you," the event manager warned. "And stay away from the main room once the guests arrive." Maria nodded and got to work. As she worked, she glanced around at the glamorous lights and decorations. Golden centerpieces, imported candles, and glass plates that probably cost more than her rent. She felt invisible. But that was okay. Invisible people still get to eat. What Maria didn't know was that the luncheon was not a regular Hollywood affair. It was a closed event. Quiet, small, and meaningful. Organized by someone who hated red carpets and attention. His name was Keanu Reeves. Keanu had been planning this private gathering for weeks. It wasn't a fundraiser. It wasn't a press event. It was something more personal. He called it Gratitude Day. His idea was simple. Invite people he respected, feed them a home-cooked meal, and thank them for the kindness they'd shown over the years. Actors, writers, camera crew, stunt doubles, even the parking guy, anyone who had made a difference in his life. Keanu arrived quietly, wearing jeans and a plain black t-shirt. No entourage, no flash. As he stepped inside the venue, he greeted the staff warmly. When he passed Maria, she quickly looked down and kept folding napkins. "Good morning," he said softly. Maria glanced up. "Good morning, sir," she replied. He smiled. "You don't have to call me sir. I'm Keanu." And then he walked on. Something about his voice stayed with her. As the guests arrived, Maria was sent to the kitchen area to assist with small tasks, refilling drinks, making sure the trays were warm, clearing used plates. She moved quietly, kept to herself, and did her job with precision. But during a short break, she leaned against the counter and closed her eyes for just a moment. One of the catering staff, a young woman named April, sat beside her. "You okay?" April asked. Maria nodded. "Just tired. My son didn't eat lunch yesterday. They said there wasn't enough in our school account." April frowned. "That's rough." Maria sighed. "He's a good boy, never complains. But it hurts you, no?" April placed a hand on her arm. "I'm sorry." What Maria didn't realize was that someone had just walked in behind them. Keanu. He was coming to check on the kitchen staff. He'd overheard the last few sentences. He didn't say a word. He just stood there for a moment, watching Maria's tired face, her eyes filled with silent worry. When Maria turned around and saw him, she gasped. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean—" Keanu held up his hand gently. "It's okay. I didn't mean to eavesdrop." She looked down, embarrassed. "Your son," he said. "How old is he?" 12, Maria replied. "What's his name?" "Liam." Keanu nodded. "He sounds like a good kid." Maria smiled sadly. "He is." He didn't ask more. He didn't need to. Later, as the event wound down, Keanu called his assistant over and whispered something. Within 10 minutes, the assistant was typing notes on her phone, taking down details Keanu had quietly gathered. Maria went back to cleaning up. The day ended, and she took her $50 and rode the bus home. When she got back, Liam was asleep on the couch, a math book open on his chest. She kissed his forehead, placed a sandwich in the fridge for him to eat tomorrow, and went to bed. She had no idea what was about to happen. The next morning, the school cafeteria was busier than usual. As Liam walked into the line, he braced himself. The same cashier looked at him, paused, then smiled. "You have full credit today," she said. "And not just for today. Someone paid for your meals through the rest of the school year." Liam blinked. "What?" She leaned in. "And they left a note. It's in the office." He walked to the office with shaky hands. The receptionist handed him a small envelope. He opened it slowly. Inside was a single sheet of paper with one sentence written in careful, simple handwriting. "No child should be denied a meal because of money. Tell your mom she's stronger than she knows." Keanu couldn't believe it. He ran home that day faster than ever before. He burst into the apartment, holding the note like it was treasure. Maria read it once, then again, and finally, the tears came. Not from pain, but from hope. And it was only the beginning. Liam held on to the note all evening. He read it aloud to his mother again and again, not because he didn't believe it, but because every time he said the words, they felt more real. Maria kept the letter close, folding it carefully and slipping it into the old recipe box that belonged to her own mother. It was the only safe place she could think of. That night, for the first time in weeks, Maria cooked dinner without checking the price of each ingredient. Just simple pasta and canned sauce, but Liam said it was the best thing he'd ever tasted. They both laughed. The apartment still smelled like hope when the lights went out. The next morning, something unusual happened. Maria woke to a knock at the door. It was still early. She opened it to find a courier holding a small white box with her name printed in black letters. She signed the receipt with shaking hands, then brought the box inside. Liam sat up from the couch, still in his pajamas. "What? Is it, Mom?" "I don't know," she said, opening the box slowly. Inside, nestled in soft tissue paper, was a phone, a brand new phone, not flashy or expensive looking, just simple and clean. There was a small note taped to the front for future work opportunities. "We'll be in touch." Maria stared at it, confused. She didn't know what to make of it. Then she remembered her old flip phone. the one with a cracked screen and fading buttons. This wasn't just a gift. It was a message. Later that afternoon, a number called her. The contact showed up as K Productions. A calm, kind voice spoke. "Hi, Maria, I'm Claire. I work with Keanu. He wanted to know if you'd be interested in occasional work with us. Event support, hospitality, general help. Nothing permanent, just whenever you're available. We'll send you details in advance, and of course it pays fairly." Maria's voice caught in her throat. "Yes," she whispered. "Wonderful," Claire replied. "You'll receive your first schedule by Friday." As promised, the schedule came. Maria found herself working small weekend events, quiet setups for charity fundraisers, food drives, and occasional reading programs. She was never placed in the spotlight, always in support roles. But she didn't mind. She liked blending into the background. What mattered was that her hours were steady, and for the first time in a long while, she could breathe. Meanwhile, Liam was changing too. Not just because he now had lunch every day, but because people started treating him differently. Some classmates asked if it was true. Had Keanu Reeves really paid for his lunches? Liam never bragged. He simply nodded and said, "He helped my mom. That's all." Some kids began sitting with him at lunch. Others asked about his favorite movies. He still spent time with Josh, who never changed. Josh was just happy to see his friend smile again. But as the weeks passed, Maria noticed something strange. Every event she worked on was meaningful, never flashy, never loud. Each one had a purpose. A visit to a children's hospital, a food donation to a shelter, an anonymous scholarship award for students in need. And somehow Keanu was always there. Not as a celebrity, but as a quiet supporter in the background. Maria began to see a pattern. One Saturday evening, after helping serve hot meals at a low-income housing community, Maria walked out into the parking lot. The night was cool and the stars peeked out from behind the clouds. She stood by the bus stop waiting to head home when a familiar voice spoke behind her. "You did great tonight." She turned. Keanu stood beside her, a wool jacket draped over his shoulders. "Thank you," she said, a little startled. "I didn't know you were here." "I try not to get in the way," he said with a gentle smile. She laughed quietly. "Is that why you're never on the guest lists?" "I like being invisible sometimes," he said. "It lets you see what's real." They stood there for a moment. The city sounds distant. "You helped my son," Maria said softly. "I can never repay that." Keanu looked at her, serious but kind. "You already have," he said. "You keep going. You keep fighting. That's more than most people ever do." Maria's eyes welled up. She quickly wiped them. "Sorry, nobody's ever said that to me before." He shook his head. "They should have. You matter. Maria. People like you are the reason this world holds together." The bus arrived. Maria stepped up to the door but then turned back. "Why me?" she asked. Keanu paused. "Because someone helped my mom once," he said, "and I never forgot." The door closed and the bus rolled away. From that night on, Maria felt something shift inside her. Not because of the money, or the job, or the quiet praise. It was something deeper. For years, she had felt invisible. Just a woman cleaning floors, raising a son, struggling in silence. But now, someone saw her, really saw her, and that changed everything. At school, Liam began attending an after-school program that Maria couldn't afford before. It was a creative writing club. He wrote poems about janitors and heroes, about hunger and kindness. His teacher, Ms. Layton, called Maria one evening. "Liam's work is incredible," she said. "Has he ever considered entering a contest?" Maria smiled. "He writes all the time, he just never shows anyone." "He should," Ms. Layton said. "There's a statewide contest coming up. The winner gets a full scholarship to summer writing camp." Maria told Liam that night. He hesitated at first, unsure, but after some encouragement, he agreed. He spent 2 weeks working on his story. It was called The Lunch Line. It was about a boy who didn't have enough and a stranger who stepped in. But it wasn't about food. It was about dignity. About being seen. When the submission was finally sent, Maria held her breath for days. Meanwhile, Claire called again. This time the job was different. "We're helping support a literacy program in the inner city," she said. "We need someone to coordinate volunteers. It's a few hours each weekend. We thought of you." Maria was stunned. She'd never done anything like that before. "I don't know if I'm ready," she said. Claire chuckled. "Keanu says you are." So she said yes. On her first day coordinating, Maria stumbled a little. She mixed up names, dropped a clipboard, and forgot to unlock a storage closet. But by the second day, she found her rhythm. She smiled at the kids. She cheered them on. She brought extra snacks. By the third week, parents began recognizing her. "You're the one who helped with the book fair, right? Weren't you at the food drive last month?" Maria nodded, humbled each time. But something even more unexpected was about to happen. Liam's school announced the contest winner during assembly. He sat with his legs bouncing nervously under the bench. Miss Layton stepped up to the microphone. "The judges said this story was raw, honest, and deeply moving," she said. "The winner of this year's statewide Young Writers Award is Liam Ortega." The gym burst into applause. Liam froze. He looked around in disbelief. Josh elbowed him, laughing. "Go, dude!" Liam stood slowly and walked to the stage. He took the certificate, shaking slightly. After school, Maria ran across the yard to hug him. He showed her the certificate. "We get to go to the Capitol next month. There's an award dinner." Maria held him tight. That night, she received another call from Claire. "Keanu heard the news. He wanted to know if you'd let him come along. Just to watch." Quietly. Maria was speechless. "Yes," she whispered. At the award ceremony a few weeks later, Liam wore his best shirt and Maria wore a borrowed dress from a neighbor. They sat in the middle row. Keanu arrived quietly, sitting in the back with a cap pulled low. He didn't come to be seen. He came to watch someone else shine, and as Liam walked onto the stage, Maria looked back. Keanu nodded once, smiling. She smiled back, her heart full. Because somehow a single moment of kindness had created a wave. A mother found strength. A boy found his voice. And a stranger became family. But the story wasn't over yet. Not even close. The award ceremony ended with bright lights, handshakes, and photographs. But the moment that stayed with Maria wasn't any of that. It was what happened afterward, when the guests started leaving and the crowd thinned out. Maria and Liam walked toward the parking lot under soft yellow lights. The air was cool. Liam held his certificate tightly, a huge smile still on his face. Waiting by the exit, leaning casually against a silver car, was Keanu. He didn't wave or call attention to himself. He just stood there, quiet as always. When Liam saw him, his eyes widened. "He really came," Liam whispered. "Of course he did," Maria replied. They approached slowly. Keanu stood up straight and smiled. "You crushed it, Liam," he said. Liam laughed nervously. "Thank you, I was shaking the whole time." "Sometimes the best voices shake," Keanu said. Maria chuckled. "He almost didn't enter the contest." Keanu looked at Liam. "You know, a lot of people almost don't do the thing that changes their lives." Liam nodded, unsure what to say. Keanu handed him a small envelope. "This is just something I thought you might like," he said. Inside was a voucher for a one-week writer's workshop hosted by a team of authors in Northern California. The note, attached, simply said, "Keep writing. Your voice matters." Liam stared at it. This is real?" Keanu smiled. "Very real." They stood in silence for a moment, the kind that doesn't feel awkward but warm. Then Keanu turned to Maria. "There's something else," he said. "I didn't want to say anything earlier, but we've been working on a longer-term project. Something with more structure. We're opening a community center, free classes, tutoring, mentoring programs. We need people like you, people who care." Maria blinked. "Me?" "Yes," he said. "You've been running everything we've asked without missing a step. The center needs a heart, not just hands. Will you consider helping run it? Maria's mouth opened, but nothing came out at first. I don't have a degree, she said. You don't need one, Keanu said. You just need to keep being who you already are. Maria looked at Liam, then back at Keanu. Tears welled up in her eyes again. I'll do it, she whispered. The center opened 3 months later. It was a modest building with bright walls, second-hand books, beanbags in the corners, and volunteers, who gave their weekends freely. The front door had no names or logos, just a small sign that said, "A place to grow." Maria was given the title, Program Coordinator. At first, she laughed at the title. She felt like a kid playing dress-up. But over time, she grew into it. She organized reading hours, math help, and weekly kindness projects, where kids did small good deeds in their neighborhoods. Liam helped too. He led a weekly poetry group. Kids older than him listened as he read stories that felt like their own lives. And in every story, someone always showed up when it mattered most. News about the center started spreading. A local reporter visited one afternoon and published a short piece titled, "Former Janitor Becomes Face of New Youth Center in East Le Maria." Didn't like the attention. She wasn't used to praise, but when she read the comments online, especially the ones from single mothers, janitors, school staff, and other people who felt invisible, she realized it wasn't about her anymore. It was about showing what was possible. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened. One day, Maria received a letter in the mail. It was from a man named Robert Watkins, a board member at a city foundation that funded community work. He had read the article, and he wanted to visit the center. Maria was nervous. She cleaned every corner, made cookies, and arranged all the books perfectly. When Robert arrived, he looked around slowly, smiled, and said, "You did all this?" "Not alone," Maria replied. "It took a lot of people." He nodded. "But someone has to lead." After an hour-long tour and a long conversation, he handed her his card. "There's a grant we offer to expand programs like this. Most people don't qualify, but I think you might." Maria's hand shook as she took it. A few weeks later, Maria sat across from Liam in their small kitchen, filling out the grant paperwork. Liam helped her with the essay section. "What should I write under 'Why are you qualified?'" she asked. "Tell them the truth," Liam said, "which is that you never stopped trying, even when nobody noticed." Maria stared at him for a long moment, then smiled. She submitted the grant. 2 weeks passed. Then came the letter. They were approved. $30,000 for new computers, expanded food programs, and supplies for after-school activities. Maria cried for hours. This time not out of fear or exhaustion, but because something she built, something she once felt too small for, was growing. And Liam. His writing workshop changed everything. He came back from Northern California buzzing with ideas and inspiration. He wrote nonstop. Poems, short stories, even a small screenplay about kindness in a city that forgot how to look people in the eye. One of his stories won a teen literary magazine contest. Another one was chosen for a youth anthology. His teacher, Ms. Layton, told Maria, "He's going somewhere. I've seen kids with talent before, but not like him. He writes from the heart." And just when Maria thought life couldn't surprise her anymore, it did. One Sunday afternoon, Claire called again.
"Keanu wants to do something different," she said. "He wants to tell a story. Not his story, not exactly, but someone else's. A story that shows how one small act of kindness can ripple through lives." "What does that mean?" Maria asked.
"He wants to produce a short film," Claire said, "and he wants Liam to write it." Maria almost dropped the phone. "Me?" Liam asked later when she told him. "Yes," Maria said. "He believes in you." Liam couldn't sleep that night. He scribbled ideas into a notebook under the covers with a flashlight. By morning, he had a rough outline. The story was simple. A boy without lunch, a mother working 2 jobs, a stranger who stepped in quietly. But through that one act, doors opened, people healed. And the cycle of kindness continued. Keanu read the draft and nodded. "It's perfect," he said. The film went into production quietly. No marketing, no press, It wasn't made for fame. It was made for truth. Maria watched Liam visit the set for the first time, sitting in a folding chair marked writer. She saw him give feedback to actors and suggest changes to the director. And for a moment she thought back to the days when he sat alone in the library, hiding from the lunch line. Months later, the short film was released online. Within a week, it went viral. Millions of views. Thousands of comments from people who had once been Liam or Maria, or someone who quietly helped. One comment read, "This reminded me of the lunch lady who paid for my meal in 5th grade. I never got to thank her. Now I will." Another said, "I've been struggling for years. This gave me the strength to try again." And then came a message that made Maria's breath catch. It was from a woman named Esther, who said, "I was a janitor for 23 years. I thought I'd never be anything more." This story gave me hope again. Maria sat quietly after reading that. She thought of the mop, the late nights, the whispered prayers over cold leftovers. And then she looked around at her apartment, her son's writing trophies, her job at the center, the letters of thanks taped to the fridge. None of this would have happened if one man hadn't noticed one hungry boy and one tired mother. But even more importantly, none of it would have lasted if that mother hadn't kept going. The story was changing lives, but it was far from over. Liam was only 13, but the world was already hearing his voice. The short film he wrote based on his real experience had touched millions. Teachers used it in classrooms. Social workers played it during parent meetings. Nonprofits screened it at fundraising events. Everyone who saw it walked away changed in some small way. But for Liam, none of that compared to the look in his mother's eyes when she watched it for the first time. She held his hand the entire time, and when the lights came up, she whispered, "You told our story, and you gave it wings." Maria wasn't the same woman who once stood in a school hallway hiding tears. She had become a leader, a mentor, and a quiet example to the dozens of families who now came to the community center every week. The grant had changed the programs, but Maria's presence changed people. But just as things seemed to settle into something beautiful, life reminded them that growth often comes with new challenges. One Friday afternoon, Maria received a letter at the center. It was stamped with the city's official seal. She opened it slowly. Her heart began to race as she read. The building lease was under review. A new real estate group had purchased several properties on the block, including the center. They were reassessing usage and considering redevelopment opportunities. Maria's hands trembled. They wanted to turn the center into a commercial space, a coffee chain maybe, or a boutique office. No final decision had been made. But the notice was clear. The lease would expire in 60 days. Maria sat at her desk, stunned. Around her, children laughed in the reading room. Volunteers stacked art supplies. One kid proudly showed another a drawing of a dragon with wings made of books. She couldn't let this place disappear. That evening, Maria called Claire. Her voice was steady but urgent. "The center is in danger," she said. "We need help." Claire responded immediately. "We'll talk to Keanu. We'll figure something out." Keanu showed up in person the next day. No cameras, no lawyers, just a notebook and a pen. He walked through the center slowly. He saw the shelves Liam had built, the mural that the kids painted, the corner where Maria kept a small memory wall with photos and quotes from people the center had helped. "It's more than a building," Maria said quietly. "I know," Keanu replied, "but they want to take it. They want to turn it into something cold, something that won't care if a kid has nowhere to go after school." Keanu nodded. "Then we won't let them." The next week was a whirlwind. Claire brought in advisors. Maria met with city officials. Volunteers organized petitions. Local parents showed up with signs. Some stood outside City Hall with banners that read, "This place saved my son." Don't take hope away from our kids. We are the community. Liam spoke at a school board meeting. He stood in front of adults in suits, his voice calm but firm. "You talk about future leaders," he said. "But this place is where leaders are born. It's where kids learn they matter." His words echoed through the chamber. One board member wiped tears from her eyes, but it wasn't enough. The real estate group still held the lease, and the deadline crept closer. Then, on the 42nd day, Maria received another letter. This one was different. It wasn't from the city. It was from Keanu. Inside the envelope was a legal document, ownership transfer papers. Keanu had bought the building. Maria stared at it for a full minute. Then she whispered, "He bought the building." She called him immediately. "Why would you do this?" she asked, voice cracking. "Because," Keanu said, "sometimes the people who hold communities together don't have the power to keep the roof above their heads. And that's not okay." Maria's tears fell freely. "You just gave us a future," she whispered. "No," Keanu replied. "You built the future, I'm just making sure no one takes it away." The next week, the center held a celebration. Not a flashy one, just music, homemade food, and a giant banner that read, "We're still here." Kids danced, parents cried, volunteers laughed together. Maria stood by the front door and greeted every guest with a hug. Liam gave a short reading from his new story about a girl who planted seeds in a city full of cement and watched flowers grow where no one expected them to. Keanu arrived late and quiet as always. He didn't stay long, just long enough to sit in the back row, listen to the stories, and smile. Before he left, Maria walked him to the sidewalk. "You changed everything," she said. "You did that," he replied, "but you saw us when no one else did." He looked at her with quiet sincerity. "I saw myself," he said. "My mom worked 3 jobs when I was a kid. She never asked for help, but I always wished someone had seen her. I guess now I'm doing that for someone else's mom." They stood silently for a moment. "I never said this properly," Maria whispered, "but thank you." Keanu looked at her. "Thank you for reminding me what really matters." The story didn't go away. Liam's writing gained attention from more than just readers. A local university invited him to speak at their youth literature event. Publishers started asking about his next work, but Liam remained humble. He still walked the same halls at school, still sat with Josh at lunch, still picked up books from the library and wrote in the corner of the center when he could find a quiet spot. And Maria, she kept working, always the first to arrive, always the last to leave. But now people came to her for advice, young mothers, struggling teens, overwhelmed teachers. They asked her how she did it, how she went from cleaning floors to running a center that changed lives. And she always said the same thing. "I didn't give up. I just took the next right step." And then another. One day, months later, Maria received a letter addressed to "The Woman Who Never Gave Up." Inside was a small note from a girl in another city. "I saw the short film. My mom is a janitor too. I used to be ashamed. Not anymore. Thank you for making me proud of her. Thank you for reminding me that we matter." Maria folded the letter and placed it on the memory wall right in the center. Beside it was Liam's original note from Keanu, still carefully framed. "No child should be denied a meal because of money. Tell your mom she's stronger than she knows." The wall was full now. Letters, photos, quotes, notes of gratitude from lives quietly touched, and every single piece told the same truth. One small act of kindness can change everything. But the story wasn't over, because Liam had one more dream, and he was about to share it with the world. It began with a blank page and a single sentence. Liam sat at the old kitchen table, a notebook open in front of him. Outside, the city buzzed with its usual noise. Car horns, distant sirens, and the hum of everyday life. But inside their apartment, there was silence, heavy with purpose. He wrote, "I want to tell the story of the kids who never get told." Maria glanced up from the stove. "That's your new story?" Liam nodded. "It's going to be my biggest one yet." He didn't say it out loud, but the idea had been living in his heart for months. Ever since the short film changed everything, Liam had been carrying a bigger dream. He wanted to write a book. Not just a short story, not just a script, an actual book filled with real moments, fiction blended with truth, and characters inspired by people like his mom. He wanted kids like him to see themselves on pages. But he didn't know where to start. He called Claire, who had become more than just Keanu's assistant. She was like a mentor now. "You think anyone would even publish a book by someone my age?" Liam asked. "The right ones will," Claire replied. "You've already proven you have a voice people need to hear." She connected him with a small publishing house known for supporting young voices. They were hesitant at first. He was only 13 after all. But after reading the first few chapters, they didn't just say yes, they said, "How fast can we publish this?" Liam worked every day after school. Weekends were for writing. Maria helped him revise, catching grammar, errors, and helping him shape scenes. The community center became his writing studio. Ms. Layton, his teacher, read early drafts and gave him feedback that made him think deeper. The book was titled The Boy in the Lunch Line. It wasn't just about Liam. It was about every kid who had ever felt small, unseen, or hungry, for food, for love, for a break in life. The final chapter ended with a message that made Maria cry. "My mother never asked to be noticed. But someone did. And because of that, everything changed. Not just for us, but for everyone we could now help. This isn't just our story, it's yours too." The publishing house decided to do something special. They didn't just want to release the book. They wanted to launch it with a public reading, led by Liam himself. It would take place at the very center that had saved them. Maria was hesitant. She didn't want the center to become a spectacle, but Liam promised it wouldn't be about fame. "It'll be about reminding people what's possible," he said. So they said yes. On the night of the launch, the community center glowed with warm lights. Volunteers hung up handmade decorations. A mural of Liam's book cover was painted by the kids in the art program. Folding chairs filled the main hall. Reporters came, teachers came, neighbors came. Even strangers who had seen the short film online showed up just to say thank you. Maria stood near the back, her heart pounding. When Liam stepped onto the small stage, the crowd went still. He looked nervous for just a second. Then he began to read. His voice was steady, clear, filled with the quiet strength that had grown in him over these past months. He read a passage about a mother coming home late from work and pretending not to be tired. About a boy eating toast and pretending not to be hungry. About how sometimes the bravest thing you can do is show up again the next day. When he finished, the room was silent. Then came the applause. It didn't stop. Maria clapped until her hands hurt. Tears streamed down her face, and standing quietly at the back wearing a dark jacket and soft expression was Keanu. He never walked to the front, never took the stage. He just watched from the corner, his arms crossed, eyes full of quiet pride. After the reading, Liam approached him. "You came," he said. "I wouldn't miss it," Keanu replied. "You found your voice, and you're using it for something good." Liam looked down, suddenly shy. "I want to do more." "You will," Keanu said. "You already are." A few weeks later, Liam's book began selling across the country. School districts ordered copies. Libraries requested readings. Maria and Liam were invited to speak at educational conferences. They didn't say yes to everything. They still valued quiet. They still valued home. But one invitation stood out. It was from a university across the country. They were holding a symposium on poverty and education. They wanted Liam and Maria to share their story, not because they were experts, but because they had lived it. "I don't know if I belong in a place like that," Maria said. "You belong everywhere your story can make someone feel seen," Claire told her. So they went. Liam spoke first. His words were calm but powerful. He talked about what it felt like to be hungry, not just for food, but for respect, for dignity, for a future. Then Maria spoke. She talked about cleaning floors in silence, about being invisible, about the moment someone finally looked at her and saw more than just a uniform. She ended with this: "We talk about breaking cycles, but you can't break a cycle until someone hands you the right tool. Keanu handed us hope, and we used it to build something that won't break again." The crowd stood. Every single person stood. Later that evening in their hotel room, Maria looked at Liam. How did we get here? She whispered. One meal at a time, he said. Life didn't become perfect. There were still hard days. There were still bills and long hours. But the difference now was that they never felt alone. Other centers began reaching out to Maria, asking how they could start similar programs. She shared resources. She gave speeches. She helped design community playbooks for city programs. Liam continued writing. He started mentoring younger kids at the center. One boy who barely spoke when he first arrived now wrote his own poems. Inspired by Liam's courage, Keanu remained in the background, always watching, always supporting, never seeking credit. One day, Maria asked him why he never talked about what he had done. He shrugged and said, "Because I didn't do it for attention. I did it because someone once helped me, and I promised myself I'd do the same someday." Maria smiled. "You kept that promise." He looked around the center full of life and laughter. "And you turned it into something beautiful," he said. One afternoon, Liam came home from school and found Maria sitting at the table with a fresh letter in her hand. "What's that?" he asked. "It's from the school board," she said. He froze. "Is something wrong?" She shook her head slowly. "They're naming the new student writing scholarship after you," she said. "It's called the Liam Ortega Voice Matters Award." Liam's eyes widened. "What?" "They want to give it to kids who write about real life. Kids who need help being heard." Liam sat down slowly. "But I'm just a kid." Maria smiled, tears shining in her eyes. "You're a kid who changed the world." Later that night, Liam lay in bed staring at the ceiling. He thought of everything. The empty tray, the breadstick Josh gave him, his mom's tired hands, the quiet voice of a man who believed in them, the center, the book, and now, the scholarship. It was more than he could understand, but not more than he could carry. Because kindness, he'd learned, wasn't a moment. It was a movement, and he wasn't done yet. Not even close. A new school year had just begun. The sun glowed gently over the rooftops, and the sound of morning birds mixed with the distant rumble of traffic. Maria stood at the window, holding a cup of tea, watching Liam walk down the sidewalk toward school. He had grown taller over the summer, more confident, more certain of who he was. His backpack now held more than books. It held a notebook filled with poems, dreams, and drafts for his next story. Maria smiled, thinking about how far they had come. It had all started with one denied meal. Now her son was a published author. The community center she once mopped floors in was now a beacon for hundreds of families. And she, a former janitor, was being asked to speak on stages where voices like hers had once been ignored. But the world had not changed because someone famous had stepped in. It had changed because someone kind had stepped in. Quietly, without fanfare, and lit a match that helped others see the path forward. That evening, Maria received a call from Claire. "Keanu wants to visit," Claire said. "Not for work. Just to talk." An hour later, Keanu arrived at the center. He wore jeans and a plain sweater. No one treated him like a celebrity anymore. Here, he was just Keanu, the man who showed up when it mattered. Maria welcomed him with a warm smile. "Come on in," she said. "The kids are finishing their art projects. Liam's upstairs working on something." Keanu looked around. The walls were now covered in drawings, quotes, and thank you notes. The place felt alive. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Grateful," Maria replied, and still a little surprised. They sat in the reading corner surrounded by beanbags and second-hand books. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was full of peace. Then Maria turned to him. "Why, did you really help us that day?" Keanu paused, then he said, "Because I saw myself. When I was a kid, my mother couldn't always afford lunch either. I know what it feels like to pretend you're not hungry, to smile when you're not okay." He looked away for a moment. "People helped me when I didn't even know how to ask. I promised myself that if I ever had the chance, I'd be the person who noticed." Maria nodded. "You noticed, and not just us." Keanu looked around at the photos on the wall, faces of kids who now had hope, mothers who had found work, volunteers who had found purpose. You took one act, Maria said, and turned it into 1,000. He smiled quietly. But you kept it going. And you made it bigger than me. They sat together until the lights flickered and the kids began packing up their bags. Liam came downstairs holding a paper in his hand. I finished the dedication, he said. The one for your next book? Maria asked. Yeah. He handed it to her. She read, For the stranger who gave us a chance, and for my mom, who turned it into a future. Maria's eyes welled with tears. Keanu read it too, but he didn't say anything. He just nodded as if to say this is enough. Weeks later, something remarkable happened. The city announced a new initiative, a network of community centers based on Maria's model. They called it the Lightline Program, inspired by Liam's story, where one small light passed from hand to hand could brighten an entire neighborhood. Maria was offered a leadership role in helping design and mentor the new sites. At first, she hesitated. I'm not a policy person, she said to Claire. Claire smiled. You're the perfect person, because you lived it. So Maria said yes. Her days became busier, her phone constantly buzzing, but she never lost touch with the people. Every Friday, she still served snacks at the center. Every Monday, she still greeted kids by name, and every Sunday night, she still sat with Liam at the kitchen table, reading his drafts, offering feedback and reminding him to drink water. Liam's second book was released quietly, but within days, it reached the top of the youth nonfiction list. Reporters asked him what success meant. He answered simply, It means someone like my mom never has to feel invisible again. A few months later, a school district in another state invited Maria and Liam to speak. During the plane ride, Maria stared out the window. Funny, she said. We used to worry about bus fare. Now we're flying to speak about change. Liam looked up from his journal. You earned this, Mom. She reached over and took his hand. So did you. At the event, Maria shared a story she had never told before. She talked about the night she found an old shoebox with only $3 and a note that read, maybe next week. It had been her lowest point, the moment she almost gave up. But then she spoke about what came after, the school lunch line, the community center, the film, the book, and Keanu's quiet presence through it all. We didn't plan this, she said to the crowd. We just kept going and people joined us. She ended with a line that would later be quoted in classrooms, interviews, and even on murals. Hope doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, try again tomorrow. And sometimes that's enough. Years later, the community center expanded to 2 more locations. Maria began training new coordinators, mostly women like her, underestimated, hardworking, and filled with quiet fire. Liam kept writing. His books became part of school curriculums, but more importantly, they became part of people's hearts. And Keanu, he stayed in touch, always quietly. He never took credit. He never stepped in front of a camera. But one day during a quiet fundraiser at the original center, Maria noticed something new. A small plaque had been placed beside the front door. She walked over to read it. It said, dedicated to the mothers who kept going, and the strangers who believed in them. Beneath it, in small script, it read, in honor of Maria and Liam Ortega. Donated by K.R. Maria touched the plaque gently, not for the recognition, but for the reminder. They had made it. Together, from one meal they couldn't afford to thousands they now provided. From silence to stories. From invisibility to impact, and none of it required shouting. Just love, just kindness, just one person noticing,